Hey, my name is Dr. Sean Price, Clinical Coordinator here at Cairo Spa in Fort Walton Beach. And this is our fourth video in our digestive health series, and this is obviously digestive health number 4. Today I want to talk about leaky gut syndrome. We've talked about digestive inflammation, we've talked about a lot of different things, but leaky gut syndrome is one of those conditions that a lot of people don't know they have, but they can be wreaking havoc on your body and causing a whole host of other issues. So just a basic understanding and outline of what leaky gut syndrome is. Basically, your intestinal lining is made up of a bunch of different cells, and those cells are butted up against each other, as you can kind of see here. In between each cell is what's called a tight junction. It's a little space that is between that cell, and it's protected through different transport mechanisms and so on. Now, the way the body should work is when you eat a food and the proteins begin to be digested, and as the food's coming through and the digestion occurs, the particles get smaller and smaller and smaller. Eventually it gets down to a particle size that is intended to be in the blood, so that it'll enter this tight junction, come through, go into the blood, and carry out the rest of its functions in the body. That's the way that it should happen. But if you are eating a diet that's rich in foods that you may be sensitive to, or you're eating a high carbohydrate diet, or you're eating a pro-inflammatory diet, or any of these different situations, or you've had gastric issues, or you've had a lot of antibiotic use, so your gut flora has gotten out of balance. Any of these things that you may do can cause the digestive lining to become inflamed. And if this goes on for too long, these tight junctions between these cells can actually become weak and actually open up a little bit more. And what will happen is, instead of only getting these little proteins through, you end up getting these larger proteins getting into the bloodstream. When a larger protein gets into the bloodstream that is not supposed to be there, the body recognizes it as being a foreign invader. So the body creates an immune response and creates antibodies against that protein. If this continues to happen, let's say in the situation of a food sensitivity, let's say you're sensitive to gluten, and you're constantly eating gluten, and these gluten proteins are constantly getting into your blood, so your body is making all these antibodies, what can end up happening is those antibodies can begin to morph, and they can begin to attack different parts of the body. They start looking for things that are similar to that protein, but it doesn't have to be exactly right, so they go and they start attacking parts of the body. And this is one of the mechanisms that's very, very common in conditions such as Hashimoto's hypothyroiditis. Patients will have this leaky gut syndrome, and these proteins will get in the body, and the body will create these antibodies against the thyroid gland. The other challenge is, once you have an autoimmune response, whichever gland it's attacking, your body tends to be apt to have more autoimmune conditions. So it's something that you've got to figure out what the cause is and get that handled. So there is actually testing that you can do. It's called intestinal permeability testing, and see if there are certain proteins that are in your blood that shouldn't be there. And we can tell if you have leaky gut syndrome, how severe it is, and what needs to be done to resolve that. So I hope this makes sense. If you have any questions, please feel free to post below.